Hi guys, welcome to my YouTube channel. I'm Bethany Atazadeh and I'm here today with Mandi Lynn, the amazing Mandi Lynn. And if you haven't heard already, we are releasing a marketing book and we just announced it on Mandi Lynn's channel this Tuesday. If you haven't seen that live, go ahead and check it out in the links below. I will definitely link it. And yeah, we're pretty excited, right, Mandi?
We are super excited, and I think everyone else was excited.
So today we just wanted to reveal the title, and we're going to do that at the end, but we also wanted to just talk a little bit more about it, about our writing process and what we've learned about writing nonfiction. So we're going to do it super casual, just back and forth, and I thought I'd let Mandi kick us off with something fun that she's found out about writing nonfiction.
So I found out that I actually greatly enjoy writing nonfiction. I found it easier, well, yeah, it's easier. It's refreshing compared to fiction because you're just writing in your own voice. You're writing what you know. And it's like, especially since I used to do my YouTube videos also as blog posts, I was technically already writing nonfiction, and now I'm just doing it in book form, and I love it.
I love that. I was totally going to say the same thing. That's so funny. It's basically like we were chatting before we started recording that I found I can write twice as much in the same amount of time because we are in somebody else's head. We are in our own head. You know, that's a weird way to say it, but we're coming from our own voice. You don't have to think, what would this character say? What would this character do? It's what would I do and say? And I know exactly what I would do and say. So yeah, that was my second point as well. It's much easier than fiction in some ways. Do you feel like it's harder in some ways as well?
I feel like for me, I feel like I know the topic. So like my job is marketing. So I've learned it. I've gone to conventions for it. Like I eat, live. I don't know what the saying is anymore.
Breathe. Yeah.
Live and breathe marketing. And I love it and hate it all at once. But that means that when it comes to writing a book on marketing, it's just putting my thoughts on paper. Like it's already there. And it's different from the type of like when you have a story idea and you want to put your thoughts on paper, there's like this eagerness because you're like, oh my God, I can't forget this. But I guess when you're writing nonfiction, like you know the material, so you don't feel like you need to write it down. So it's less eager. Like you're like, I'm just writing this. It's less pressure because you don't feel like I have to do this before I forget because you know you're not going to forget.
Yeah, totally. Same thing with like, outlining. Let's jump into that because that applies to outlining too, is you don't have to create this timeline and stick to it. You don't have to be like, about it and, plot it all out. Like you can create basically your chapter headings and like the general idea of what each one you want to talk about is. And then at least for me, I found that you can mix them around and you don't have to change that much. Like if you refer back to a chapter, maybe, but you could just refer forward instead. You know what I mean? So it's it's really different for plotting.
It is, because I know when it comes to like fiction, I hate writing outlines, but I know I need to write an outline. But when it comes to like nonfiction, especially when it comes to collaborating on a nonfiction, like the sitting down virtually with each other and like outlining the series as a whole, that just made me feel so good because I'm like, okay, cool, like this makes sense. And we were like, oh, we can move this around. And I guess if I ever had to say something was the hardest, I would say order of telling things would be the hardest.
Yeah.
Because you don't need that timeline that you have to stick to. You really can put it in whatever order it needs to be in. But that's the thing, you have to figure out what that order is.
Yeah.
In terms of when you're teaching someone new material, you have to figure out what would make sense to teach someone first.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes, I haven't done this yet, but for those of you who are curious or want to write nonfiction, I've heard you can kind of do the bubble process. I think it's called either thought bubbles or just bubbles. But anyway, you write out the main topic and then you write out other things around the page and you kind of put bubbles around them. I hope this is making sense. And then you kind of like tie them together. So it actually gives you a visual of like since we're talking about marketing, like obviously social media is a bubble, or like Authortube could be a bubble. And like, I don't want to reveal too much, so I won't say more. But basically you're like, okay, well, for example, those two things go together a little bit. So then you can see what's relating to what, where you can start. It gives you an idea of like where to go.
Yeah, because I know, like, when I first started working on one of the books, I was like, oh, I got to teach people how to do this and this and this. But then I was like, but I want to also explain why they need to do this. Like, what's the logic behind it? What's the psychology behind it? So then I'd be like, okay, we got to do a chapter beforehand that explains this is why you need to do this and this is why it works.
Oh, so true. Now that you say it, I do remember that problem where I was like, yeah, I think I had like the why at the end of the book. And then I was like, hold up, that probably needs to come first. And so, yeah, it's definitely just like fiction in that sense, where just write it, like if you're like juggling a bunch of balls in the air, let them fall where they may, and then you can reorganize it later, just like with fiction, I think. Actually, more than fiction. A lot more. I guess fiction, I've reorganized chunks, like little paragraphs, like a flashback, I'll move it here and there, but mostly it's pretty solid on a timeline. Whereas with this book, I don't know if you agree, Mandy, but I felt like I could move stuff anywhere almost.
Oh yeah. And that's almost been a problem, because I, not so much moving stuff, but like I'd be like I originally had an outline of the book by chapter, and then I'd start writing one chapter, and then I'd be like, oh wait, this needs to go before that chapter. So then I'd start writing that chapter, but then I go to the chapter that I already wrote and realize that it doesn't really make sense now because I'm talking about the same thing twice.
Yeah, yep, I've done that too, for sure.
Yeah, so it's funny the way it works is very different than the way it works with fantasy. Like fantasy, you're telling a story. And like you mentioned in my live video, we do plan on telling stories.
Yes. Yeah.
But it's very, very different because they're like little stories.
Mm-hmm. That was one of the biggest things that I learned when I was researching, like, how do you write a nonfiction well, is like, are you supposed to write it really dry and textbook, or do you tell stories? And so I found that people tend to relate to stories more, is what I've been kind of gathering. So if you can share personal examples in nonfiction, it gives you an authority to say, I've been there, I've done that. Like, we're talking about things that we've done in these books.
And I think the best part about this series is the fact that because we are co-writing it, we both have very different experiences.
Mm-hmm.
And I've noticed that as we're working on book one together, you share your story and then I share my story, and it's for the same topic, but our experiences are very different. And I think that's important as an author, especially a new author, to realize that everyone's going to have a different experience, and that maybe you shouldn't compare yourself to other people.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's probably one of the best things that you can get out of this book, is just see the options that are out there and then know that you got to make it your own.
And then also, because keeping in mind that, like, for this book, we're talking about everything.
Yeah.
But you also have to realize you can't do everything.
Mm-hmm.
So we like it because we're each giving our different experiences, because Bethany focuses on different things than I do. So we each give our personal experience. Then you, as the reader, read it and you're like, oh, I think what Bethany does will work more for me, or what Mandi does will work more with me. And then you also get to see our trials and errors and learn from what we messed up on.
Oh my gosh, yes. That's half the book sometimes. Not half the book, but yeah, you'll definitely get to learn from our experience. You can kind of feel like you're getting a jump start to like skip over the learning curve or whatever you want to call it, which is really nice. I definitely feel like we're going to talk about a lot of stuff that I wish I'd known when I was starting out. Like, I had no idea what I was doing. I don't know about you, Mandi, but I was just winging it by the seat of my pants.
Oh, yeah. I was very much winging it. So when my first book came out, I didn't quite know what I was doing, mostly because I was in high school. So I wasn't in the mindset of, let's market a book. But I also couldn't get into that mindset until after I graduated college. And I didn't graduate college until a year ago. And in that year's time, I've learned a lot, mostly because I work full-time in marketing, but also because I've made a lot of mistakes.
Yeah, same.
And that's how you learn.
Yeah, it really is. You really have to just, it's literally like the biggest marketing tip. And it's funny because I say a lot of things are the biggest marketing tip. I should quote that on both ends. But really,
we have a book called The Biggest Marketing.
The biggest marketing tip, full of like 100 tips. Don't be afraid to fail. Like literally, don't be afraid and get paralyzed and do nothing. Just try things, because marketing is literally trial and error, like always. So.
Like a lot of people, I've had a lot of people ask, like, will this type of marketing work, or will this type of marketing work? And the simple answer is sometimes it depends on the genre. Sometimes it depends on whether or not you know what you're doing. And sometimes it's just you gotta try it for a little bit, see if it works. And then if it doesn't work, move on to something else.
Yeah, and I'll add to that, even like maybe it works for you, but you don't like it. And if you can't stand it, then it's not for you either. So you really do have to try things. Yeah, that's a good way to sum it up. But now, should we reveal the title? Do I even remember the title? It is How Your Book Sells Itself. And then, Mandy, you want to reveal the series title?
The series title is Marketing for Authors. That is the series title, right?
I like how you like paused after.
No, that is the series title. Right? I just know it's whatever I call my YouTube like videos that are about marketing.
Yes, because it's literally tailored to authors / writers. It's not for anybody. It's literally focused on books and making sure you sell your book well before, during, and after a book release, and all the other times. I think I covered them all.
Oh, and I forgot, we were revealing, so we talked about what book 1 is about. Book 1 is How Your Book Sells Itself.
Yep.
Which is like all the basics you need to know. Like you cannot not read this book.
Yeah.
Like you need to, because otherwise, and I think that goes for the same for all the books in the series. Like there are multiple times that we're going to be referring to other books in the series to really make sure everything makes sense. But am I allowed to reveal the topic for book 2?
Yes, do it. Yes. All
right.
Let's reveal book 2.
So book 2, the topic for book 2 is your author platform and content marketing. But that's not the title. So, you know, you're going to hear the better title later on, but that's the topic.
But that is a huge topic and very important. And so we felt like it would be smart to, we're starting with How Your Book Sells Itself, which is about the book itself. And then we talk about basically your author platform next and like getting that right. I don't know.
So we're building your blocks. We've got, you can't sell the book if the book ain't good, if it's not set up correctly, if you aren't even in the marketing mindset. And then book 2, you've already done everything in book 1, and now you're ready to hit the ground running.
Yes, exactly. So excited for these, you guys. And like Mandy said, I think in your live, and when we were talking in the live, we aren't sharing everything yet because they're not all written, but we are sharing like in piecemeal over time. We're gonna like start revealing fun things. So make sure that you subscribe to our channels and stay tuned for more updates. And maybe in the future, we'll do like a video on co-writing together. I don't know if that'd be fun. But that's a whole topic that would be super fun to cover. So if you guys are interested, leave a comment below. And I think that's everything. Do you have anything else to say, Mandy?
I'm good.
Nice. Thank you so much for hanging out and chatting with me. And thank you guys for watching. And I really hope you like this video. Give it a thumbs up if you do. And I'll talk to you again soon. I really don't have anything. Bye, guys. One last thing I forgot to mention when Mandy and I were hanging out is that I will be giving ARCs, as in advanced reader copies of this marketing book, to all my patrons. So if you're a patron at any level on Patreon and you're supporting me, then you will be offered an ARC copy, a digital ARC copy. So I should probably have an intro. Let's see.
You should probably have an intro.
And that was horrible.
I didn't think it was. You got your first booster.
Intros are my nemesis, I'm telling you. I usually skip them. We are releasing a marketing book. Hold on. Is that the secret? Is that a secret?
I know. Yeah, we're and yeah, today.
That was awesome. What was that?
That was Phil. He's playing a video game, and I'm judging by that sound, he just died.
Oh man.